I feel like a lot of people are always so afraid to use vehicles to their potential, but it's okay to use them. They're going to be okay.
I have a hot take about Porsche right now, and
this is we talk about Porsche a lot.
You got the shirt on,
and I know.
Yeah.
I honestly,
Porsche's the
he's got a
forbidden P word
73
for us.
RS on.
I wore this to like soften the blow, but I really think that Porsche is getting close to jumping the shark here, because they went from like the rich lawyer prick in the 80s or so, right? 90s, and then I'll give Magnus a lot of credit for basically like revamping the image of Porsche, because it brought me into it. That's why I bought an Outlaw Porsche, because I was like, whoa, I hadn't really had these on my radar, and I didn't know they were this fast. I didn't know they were this fun to drive. I didn't know they were this raw. And he really brought that from like, oh, the dick down the street with the black 911, who you're like, ugh, to like, oh, you can like make these your own. This is cool. And you can actually like enjoy them. They're fun. He didn't give a shit about the odometers. Like, that's fun. I like that. But in the wake of that, there was a lot of people like me who got into the Porsche game, but then there were a lot of people who went, obviously, I mean, for Porsche's sake, they latch onto this and they're like, yeah, we're going to make a lot of money off of this. And they start, latching onto originality and individuality, which brings PTS way into the picture and all this stuff, right? So, and that's all well and good, because the cars are fantastic. But the reports I was getting from friends who are like Rennsport Reunion, they were telling me, they're like, yeah, I'm sitting in the grandstands watching a 904 race a 906, race a 910, and there's no one here. I'm like, what do you mean? That place looked packed. They're like, well, they were there, but they were waiting 6 hours in line for a t-shirt. And I was like, oh, that's not the point. That's not what this is. That's not good. And that worries me. And I also think that, like,
as you're wearing the t-shirt.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, a friend actually gave me this.
Okay, all right, you're off.
So I didn't buy that. But like, it is one of those things where I'm like, ooh, I don't want these to just turn into poster cars, because they're not. Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, I love a GT3 as much as the next guy. They're great. I used to lust after them more. And I don't think that's because I've become jaded with the cars that I drive. Sure. Because like a 997 GT3 is still like my favorite thing in the world.
It's greatest.
But I go to, you go to every Cars and Coffee, and it's just like, I don't want to, no offense to Will. I love everything PTS RS. Sometimes I just don't want to talk about what color your car is.
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't be the highlight of your 9,000 RPM flat six.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Well, and it's crazy because, you go through COVID and no one can buy cars. No one can get a car. There's this huge wait list, and you've got all of these other companies pushing service. And it's like, to me, there would be some sort of marketing on, well, if you drive more than X amount of miles a year, we can take X amount off your service, which might give some people some sort of incentive exactly to drive their car. I mean, to me, I have a 230,000 mile Porsche, and you have a Porsche with a replacement engine. Yep. It's like, that's the point, is not to keep your odometer as low as possible. Well, and I think people are missing that.
I'm thankful for Seinfeld for saying, like, when you get to heaven, if you lose if you have the lowest mile Porsche. Yeah. Now, the thing is, on the surface, that's a great statement. In context, you're like, you're a billionaire, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
certain
not
cars. I think he's right. He is right, but I think it also, I could see it. Like a modern car, like a modern GT3. There's no point not to drive the shit out of it.
Absolutely.
Right?
There's a lot, guys. There's a lot of them.
I know.
Did you know they made a lot of these?
It's not
there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it's just hard because
it's
like,
you can't redline. It's going to be on the DME report.
Oh my God, the DME report.
But the Porsche thing is a tricky thing, and I'm wondering, and I don't know how they maintain the cool factor in the next 10 years, because I'm already feeling like less cool about it now.
I could see that. I feel that.
Well, it's a very oversaturated world. Everyone's into them.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I'm curious, do you think it has to do with, like, because I feel like Ferraris do absolutely nothing for me these days.
I would agree with you.
And I think it's, like I see it. The last Ferrari that I was like, okay, I love this car, was like, the TDF, the F12 TDF.
Yeah.
That was like the last, I was like, this is fucking awesome. But like the stuff that they make now, I'm just like, it's
296, I think, is really.
It does
cool.
nothing for me.
Really?
Absolutely nothing.
I think it's amazing.
I think it's cool. It's cool. I appreciate it, but like, it's just not. You get in the the new GT3 products are great, or the GT products are great, and they're fun. You definitely can feel they're a lot less analog. Yes. But you still have that connection, and I feel like, I've driven the 296, I've driven some of the modern Ferrari stuff. It's just the way I describe it, it's like fake fast. It's like it just
I
doesn't.
hear you.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
So I think one of the things that it's a line that I walk all the time is, how do I not become a grumpy old man
Right.
complaining about the new generation? Because I hate that.
The grumpy
I'm
old
right there
car
with
guy.
you.
I hate it when people are like, oh, these millennials, they don't know. Oh, these Gen Z kids, they'll never drive a stick. I'm like, bro, they don't need to. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if they're interested, they'll learn, and it's
Yeah.
great. Like, I'm not going to complain. I don't think everyone who's younger than me is an asshole.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to be old someday, and I would like to embrace what's happening. But at the same time, how do I give my personal opinion on something without sounding like the grumpy old guy who just, you guys don't know how it was? Because guess what? Every generation says the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
It's not a new statement for me to be like, well, they'll never know the sound of this. Like, of course they won't, because it doesn't exist anymore. Like,
and it's illegal now.
like, the world is different. And they're like, oh, I used to love the smell of gasoline. And I'm like, yeah, and you're dumber for it because it was leaded
And you have
fuel.
lost brain cells, sir.
Like, it's just wild when it's like, there's reasons. It's like I used to go to the drag strip and we could just race without helmets. I'm like, yeah, people died.
Yeah.
Like on a Tuesday. Just people.
and that was normal.
It was fine. Yeah.
No problem.
And it is just frustrating. The thing that frustrates me though is like to be able to play both sides, right? To be like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, look, if you were to tell me like, hey, I'm going to give you this like Tesla Model 3 to commute in every day, like, great.
That's what I do. That's
Cool.
what me.
That's fine.
He's got one.
Absolutely. That's true. But if you were like, I'm going to give you that Porsche 356 Speedster and you're going to have to commute in it, you're going to be like, oh, I got to get on the highway with like trucks.
Yeah.
Like,
Which,
I can't.
you feel, yeah.
It's fine for a ride.
Yeah.
It's not
And
good
it's
for
amazing.
like 12,000 miles a year on
No.
the Mass Pike. Like,
No.
that's not the,
You're gonna
that's
die.
not the you'll die.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing. There's like a time and a place, and what's getting more and more difficult just with like development and population growth and more cars on the road. It is getting harder to drive these cars because it's getting harder to find the window.
Yeah.
It is.
Of
And
where and how do we do it?
That's a perfect example of a car. It's a 55 Speedster. It's got, I don't want to. It's got 10,000 miles. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
A low mile car.
Original
okay.
miles.
But the tires are this wide.
Yeah.
And it weighs nothing. And when when a car passes you, a modern SUV,
You're like
it,
this.
It shifts. Like it's like you can't. You
Yeah.
gotta drive it
Yeah.
early in the morning, and it's a fucking awesome car. But like you said, like it's all about the experience, and I'd much rather drive that for an hour, maybe once a week, than any modern Ferrari.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and
Sorry.
It's all right. It's all good.
he's not okay.
Dude,
He
I'll
likes,
be
he
fine.
likes his Porsche better anyway.
I
so
do
it's
like
fine.
I do like my Porsche better, but I'm also I have like
You're like so cultured.
it's my dude. It's
I know,
my
it's painful.
listen, it's my Italian duty. I was born in Italy. Obviously, I love Ferrari. I love Ducati motorcycles. Like I love all that. I just don't want to be like smited with like a spaghetti. Like,
Are they
I hear
making a manual?
I heard a rumor
Roma?
about this. Yeah.
Is that
a manual
a gated
Roma?
Roma or something?
Ooh.
I heard a rumor about a manual Ferrari coming.
There needs to be like a lower horsepower, like 500 horsepower stick Ferrari, like mid-engine car. That would be perfect.
Yeah, rip the roof off of it,
Yeah.
make it beautiful, and let it sing. Like, I think you bring up a good point though. Is like car companies don't take. I don't know if this is correct. I don't think car companies are taking risks like they should be.
They're not.
And
No, because it's all
And
about
Ferrari
the
has
motor.
the ability to take
Well,
risks.
And that was going to be my next thing.
Mercedes does.
For the last 10 years, basically, there's been a Save the Manuals movement, and there are companies that are going out of their way to produce manuals, and the first company that comes to mind is Hyundai with their N division. It's going really well. But, like, where do we go from here? Like,
Right.
Everything is so easy. Everything is so fast. Those Hyundais are great cars. I mean, the whole department's being led by a guy from the M division at BMW. everything is great right now. So like, what's next? Do we just get faster? Do we get more feel?
I think faster was the biggest mistake anybody ever
I
made.
agree.
And
Yeah.
like
Everything is so fast.
I kind of blame the Germans for this because we're sitting in front of a Black Series and a DTM, and it's like AMG always kept like amping it up, and it was like, oh my god, now you've got like an SL65 with 600 or 700 horsepower and all this stuff, and it's cool, but like the problem was that like the M division boxed themselves into a corner because they went from a V8 M5 to a V10 M5. What's next, guys?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do
Right,
next?
right.
Are you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
You're gonna give them more, and they gave them more, and then they gave them more, and then they're
Yeah.
like, oh god, we need all-wheel drive, and then they gave them more, and it's just this whole thing. And unfortunately, people started normal non-car people who like cars but aren't car people. This like Taurus. They think.
Like tourists.
Get off my lawn.
They just want pickup. Oh, it's peppy.
Right.
Oh, it's got pickup. They just want that. And they gave like vile access
That car's
to power.
got good pickup.
Well, then it became this whole like. Remember, I don't think it is anymore. But there was such an obsession with beating 7 minutes on the Nürburgring.
Yeah.
like that was a huge.
The fact that we know what the Nürburgring is
is
already kind of don't take that for granted. I mean, the Nürburgring was like, if you know kind of thing 15, 20 years ago. And maybe
Now everyone knows
longer
about
than
it.
that. Maybe long, because it wasn't until Gran Turismo 4 put it on their
Also,
game.
the
Like, probably
roof,
saved
the
it
roof
to
of
that normal
Yellowbird
people
also
knew.
made it
Yeah.
super famous with that film of it drifting
Yeah.
around.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a car people film.
That's
like,
a car people
Yeah.
film.
Like
Right.
this, like everyone knows.
That's
the
a very,
Nürburgring.
very famous film.
Yeah.
Amongst the people we
Who-
associate
Yeah,
with.
exactly.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's the kind of thing. Man, cars are weird because there's such a variety, and it's of enthusiasts, and you can peg them for where they are in this level in an instant.
Yep.
Because you can talk to someone for 10 seconds and be like, all right, he's not a driver, or
Right.
he has no idea of anything that was produced before 2010, or he just buys everything new. It's like we've all walked into a collection where there's every new Ferrari in the same color and this and that, and they're like, haha, and you're like, okay, it's a showroom. What are you talking about? What's the story? That you have money? Because I get that. I saw the house. But like, there's people who are cultivating cars as art and don't drive them, and I respect that, because you're like, well, I get it. You put this thing in your living room. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. You're an
kills me.
architect, right? But at the same time, then there's other people who are like race car drivers, but totally don't give a shit about any of the details and all the nuances. They're like, it drives good, and they're the fastest guy you've ever met in your life, and he couldn't talk to you for 10 seconds about the about the history or the car or whatever, but this guy is just a driver, end of list. And it's cool to be able to interact with all these walks of life and try to bridge through it all. Like,
Yeah.
I try to walk through, because like I'll never know as much about colors as Willie. I'll never know as much about like Ferrari history or Italian car history as like Steve Serio.
Yep.
But what I can do is I can have experiences driving them, so that way I can relate to what their joy is and what brings them into the fold. And if I do my job right, if I'm showcasing these cars correctly, and I'm like giving people the excitement in the videos, I hopefully in fostering some love for these cars for a younger generation, or giving some nostalgic appreciation for an older generation.